welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on the planet. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type you have, you can carve out an awesome life in sales. And today's guest is someone who I know personally is no stranger to all the ups and downs of what life can throw your way, and has proven himself to show up and show out as someone who truly cares about helping others be successful. He's the director of agent success. He's the owner of SBY MMA, and he's one hell of a model American human being. He's my friend, Mr. Branden Hudson. What's up, bro? Hey, yeah. It's the agent success at EXP with Brandon Brittenham, my man. And hey, you know, this is the transition as we go through life, man, we level up. We were just talking about this before we started, how as we go through these seasons and we experience new growth and we show up and we have to find ways to really make this work and to communicate with our team and lead them. And so, man, I want to jump right in. I know you've got an awesome story for us. Let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, we've got a couple things going on. You know, obviously I own an MMA gym, which is a little bit different from, you know, your standard gym. So we have around 350 members at the gym. We've been in business we've been official LLC for about 6 years. And we're associated with a big box gym, a big fitness club. You know, it's like 75,000 square foot. So it's a nice facility. It's a nice thing that we got going there. And then I work with the Maryland and Delaware group of EXP Realty, you know, with Branden Brittenham. If anybody's in the real estate space, they've probably heard that name. You know, I'm director of agent success. So I work on, you know, keeping the agents with skin in the game, coaching them, make sure they're accountable, running the brokerage for them, and then doing a lot of the recruiting and stuff like that. So, you know, you're dealing with two different worlds that are very, very common and have a lot of synchronicity, excuse me. But, you know, totally different, you know what I mean? So, you know, it's pretty cool, man. You know, I was just coming off of a real big high over at the gym. We had we do stuff for the community and things like that. And we had a young guy come in. He's 16 now, but he just got his first couple of varsity wins not too long ago. And now he's wrestling for the Baysides over here at one of the local schools. And, you know, this kid, man, he's a special kid, man. He's got a very humble beginning. You know, he ended up coming home from school about three years ago and, you know, finding his dad dead. And, you know, that's what he found after school. And, you know, he stays with his grandma. His mother and him has been working on, you know, their relationship. And it was just, you know, he came in a couple years ago and he was a D&E student. You know, and my partner, I also help promote fights here on the Eastern Shore. My partner recommended him and brought him in and said, you know, he'd be a good candidate for the scholarship. And, you know, this kid, man, you know, you give away scholarships, you have people come in the gym all the time and things like that and in the office. And they've got the poor American me story and they got the big ambitions and all that. But, you know, majority of the people don't pan out. And, you know, in about less than a year's time, you know, this kid was bringing in his report card with A's and B's, proud of it, showing me, you know, messages, you know, just all in on the brand. The gym's always the most tidiest and fit together. He runs around that gym like it's his gym. He treats it like it's his gym. I mean, this is a 16-year-old kid, you know, who's been through some awful stuff. And he's wrestling for Baysides this weekend, man. He's just all pumped up. And I've got about 5 16-year-olds that are beating the crap out of grown men, and he's one of them. So, and then, you know, obviously after high school, he's planning on going to the military. So this was like, for me, one of those high weeks, man, where I'm just like, this is why I do it. I love it. You know, it's just one of those things that I'm blessed to have the ability to provide opportunities like that. And, you know, ultimately, you know, to circle back with sales, it comes from, you know, being able to have enough members and have enough revenue and to be able to provide opportunities like that. You know, in the gym business, especially the MMA gym business, they say if you want to make any money, don't open a gym. and you definitely don't want to open up a gym where you try to convince people to punch each other in the face and sweat on each other. But we've been very blessed, and we've had a lot of growth every single year. You know, we just had our highest grossing month this past January. which we rarely do well in January over there. For some reason, our people are February people. The gym business does great in January, but the MMA world, in my experience, didn't. But we had our highest grossing month, and we've had our highest grossing year last year. And it's cool because all of that gives me the ability to have cool stories like this. And when you see a young kid like that, breaking down to you because he's just so confused and doesn't know what's going on, and all he wants to be is loved and just seen. And then to now where he's, walking around with his chest out, he's a leader and stuff like that, just makes it all worth it. And it makes this being the greatest job, like you said in the beginning, being able to sell and call the damn leads, man.
Branden, and what I love about these kinds of stories is that this is why I love sales, because you can come from like messed up backgrounds and beginnings. And, I grew up in the street selling anything and everything I could get my hands on. I know you have a very similar story. And what I think it happens to guys like us is we see like a similar version of ourselves in these kids. It's like, hey man, I know you're a product of your environment. And unfortunately we don't get to choose those things as kids. And also as grown men and leaders and women in our community, like we are given the choice and the option and opportunity to show up and help them see. Now, again, man, we all knew everything about the world at 16, 17-year-old. You couldn't tell us nothing. But there are those folks that are out there who are willing to shut up and listen and learn and do the work. And they're fewer and farther between these days. And I think it's our job as leaders to work on our own communication style to recognize those. Yeah. Because there's probably someone on your team right now who could be a superstar, but they don't feel that confidence in themselves. And we got to show up and show them how to do that. So Branden, how did you what was the conversation? What was the process of development with that young man to help him see, hey man, you've got two paths that you can go down. Here's one and here's the other. Which one do you want to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. He's one of about 8 or 9 like actual competitors right now that are prospects coming up. You know what I mean? And what my style of coaching and training and things like that, I'm very in your face, hard nosed, not like screaming at your face like some guys, but like, we're going to go right to the point. We're going to cut to the chase, and in the same sense, I'm also able to, deliver, bad news with a silk hammer. You know what I mean? So, communication is very important because my hard style worked for my last 2 groups of prospects that came through the door. Now, again, remember, I'm an MMA gym. We're not just built on, the fighters. If we based our gym on fighters, we'd be broke. Because if you're fighting, you probably wouldn't be broke, right?
Because fighters are broke because they're fighting for their life.
Correct. That's why I started over the gym. It would, you cross the T, you dot the I, you'll make this much money. Yeah, boy, was I wrong. Mm-hmm. Same with real estate. We got guys and gals that come in from real estate. And our avatar are brand new agents. So they're watching HGTV, they're seeing the billboards, they're thinking that real estate's going to be, the end all right away. And little do they know, they have so much to work and it's similar to the cage. They're getting punched in the face and they have to recover and so forth. So what I've learned about my new group is that these are carrot kids. These are carrot individuals. Most of us learn one of 2 ways. We learn with the carrot or we learn with the stick. I was a stick kid. You know what I mean? I don't want to be told how good I'm doing. I don't want to be told how great I look. I want to be told that I suck. I need to work harder, push. I want that David Goggins mentality, carry the boats, carry the logs. That's how I respond, right? Well, that doesn't work for everybody. You know what I mean? And this group that I have now are a bunch of carrot kids. They want to be incentivized. They want to be told they're doing a good job. They want to be, and I think that's a lot of our generational right now. Our Gen Zs are a lot like that, where they see the stuff on social media, they see the stuff on everywhere, and they want to be the guy or gal. They want to have all the things, but I don't know if they really want the responsibility, right? And they haven't bridged the gap yet to say, oh yeah, it's not as easy as social media or easy as the winning stories tell me, that there's a lot of more that goes into it than I realize. And sometimes as leaders, we push too much responsibility on them too fast, and we push too much carrot or too much stick too fast. And we don't let the process actually evolve and marinate a little bit. So for me, understanding that, okay, I've got a bunch of carrot kids in there. I have to redo my coaching style so that I can keep them engaged. That's not just to keep them engaged so they can go win fights. It's also to keep them engaged so they can stay in the building, pay their membership dues, buy t-shirts, buy merchandise, give referrals, retention, and all the other things that go along with business, because it's a delicate business. You need the bodies and the members to keep the lights on, but at the same time, you're also dealing with people in human psychology where you want to make sure that you're a good leader and leading these people the right way. So for me, a lot of education on the communicating side and just paying attention to this one kid in particular. I knew that. I knew that he'd probably been babied and felt sorry for, and he had been in a space where people had, seen that his tragedy was, his victimhood. So we didn't go that route, you know what I mean? And I've had some really tough things that I said, you know what I mean? Things that, between him and I are very brutally honest, but it's the truth, At the same time, when he's crying, I'm giving him a big hug and making sure he knows that I'm very proud of him and he should be proud of himself and that we're just getting started. And guess what? You ain't the only one, So, and then I think Drew, be relating to him, you know what I mean? And trying to put yourself in their situation, their shoes, and looking at it like, you know what? I might not have had the same upbringing, whether mine is worse, better, unrelatable or not, but I got to figure out what the perspective is and what the lens they're seeing. And what happens is, man, is once you start seeing people, once you start recognizing people, they start feeling that they're important in your world more than just a paycheck or a fight or anything else, man, at that point you got them bought in. And when they're bought in, man, you don't know what they're going to bring to the table. You're looking, a lot of people look at it as, hey, I need this person on my team, or I need this sale, but we don't know what that person, that sale, is going to turn into in 5 and 10 years. They might turn into a whole different entity that's going to bring value and bring some sort of opportunity to you. So it's really just looking at that perspective, understanding that, everybody's just having this human experience, trying to figure it out. And my job is to serve, and my job is to make sure that I can be the best leader, coach, whatever you want to dub me for the day, that I can be, you know what I mean? By servitude.
Sometimes those names get a little bit less than pleasant, depending on what kind of person you have to be using, whether it's a carrot or the stick. And that
Sure.
is what I love about you, Branden, because I follow your social media content and the way that you're very eloquent with the way you tell your stories, in that they're very raw and uncut. And yet there's something to be said about the way you put thought into how you deliver it, because you understand that even the raw uncut can go too deep and it can keep people from taking that next step. Because, you get a paper cut. All right, cool. It hurts a little. It stings. You keep moving forward. But someone cuts you with a knife. That's a whole different situation. And what I love about where you're going with that and what you said was, get into their worldview. Like, what are the things that they're experiencing? Because everyone has their own life story going on. In our own mind, we got our own shit. Right now, you're in your head thinking about something, and there's someone that's listening to this right now that's also got 3 other things going on in their life. And so being able to put on the lens and get in their worldview, not only is that great in leadership, it's great in sales. Because when you understand that your job in sales is literally influence and persuasion, with an ethical touch to it, because we all know we can go too far and get people to do a lot of bad things. I mean, look at how they treated Mike Tyson. That guy was absolutely savage. And also there were people that took advantage of that and were able to persuade him to do things that got him in trouble. Mm-hmm. And when you're put in the position of leadership and you have this, I mean, it's a skill and also a blessing. It's super important to understand, as you mentioned, is this someone who's going to do well with the motivation, the inspiration, the carrot, or do they need that harsh truth because other people have spent all their time babying this individual or allowing them to sell them on the victimhood or whatever the excuse is? And it's so cool to hear someone be able to break it down like that, because again, it's not just selling the prospect, it's selling the team member, it's selling the new recruit, it's getting them to understand that, hey man, you're going to show up and get punched in the face for the next 18 months probably. And, you're going to get a couple of dubs along the way, but this is what the expectation is. And I would be curious for you, as you're growing through that season and you're helping people make that decision to commit to being punched in the face for a long time, what do you think separates you from everyone else? Like, how do you guys keep, growing and doing such a great job, having these record months in a business where literally you're selling people on getting punched in the face? Because I know it's on not just in the gym, but your real estate business is growing like crazy too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that what separates me from a lot of people, and makes me such an effective coach is a few things. One, I believe every word out of my mouth. So everything that I say, I believe. Everything that I say, I live. Everything that I say, I do. And it's just one of those things where, for me, I guess like an analogy is like nobody wants to learn from an overweight martial artist, right? Or nobody wants to go and lose weight from somebody who's not in shape themselves, right? From a trainer that's not doing the work. So that helps me, believe. And just as much as that, you have to, as a leader and as a coach, you have to own that role. It's funny because when we met almost 5 years ago. And it wasn't until, believe it or not, it wasn't until like after a year, maybe a year and a half, where I actually said out loud that I'm a leader. Like I've been in the coaching space. I've been in the I've been the guy. Like, and this sounds so brash. I don't mean to say it like this, and I hope that they don't take it like this. But I wasn't the guy that was the comeback story. I've always been like I'm in a small town, so I've always been popular. I was the voted the homecoming king, and I was the guy that did this, and like that was just who I was. I've always been a person that people knew. I sold a lot of weed back in the day, so I was the party guy and the friend and all that stuff, so I've always been that kind of looked at as somebody good. I got into fighting, I won championships. So, I've never been a guy that was like looking from the crowd on the sideline trying to be fit in or whatever. But I never owned the fact that I was a leader. I never said it out loud. I never identified that. So, when I did that, everything changed for me. Right. And it was so powerful just saying, hey, I'm a leader. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. Right. And a lot of people say it, I think, prematurely because they want to believe that they're a leader. So therefore, they really don't believe the stuff that's coming out of their mouth. I had to kind of do it the other way around. I had to convince myself that I was a leader, and I had to take ownership of that role, which, with that being said, takes a lot of responsibility, right? There's a lot of responsibility of leadership and being in there. So it switched a thing in my mind to make me say, okay, cool. Now that I'm a leader, what do I do with it? You know what I mean? I've been very, and nothing changed with my coaching style. Nothing changed with the person I was. It was just something that, justified to myself, and I owned it. Right. And then, so that's the tricky part, because then once you own leadership, or once you're in that role, whether it's business ownership, whether it's coaching, whatever, the other thing that makes me stand out from everybody else is I've got the white belt mentality. I'm a white belt for life. Right? No matter how many, belts I've won or earned or whatever, I'm always going to be a student of the game. And I'm open to everyone else is bringing stuff to the table, because I think that just because you came in to learn, real estate from me, or you came in here to learn martial arts or something like that, well, who says you can't teach me something about something I don't know? Right? Who says that you don't have an expertise that I couldn't take? I'm not the guy. Just because I can, teach you, fold you up in a pretzel or jiu-jitsu and teach you how to do these cool moves doesn't make me an expert at, police work. Doesn't make me an expert at, the medical field. Doesn't make me an expert at politics. And I think that a lot of these leadership roles, people get put in this, people find themselves, as everybody's looking to them for the answers, and they think they have to have all the answers about everything else. And that's something that I don't want to do, because I have such a humility in me where I don't want my bubble busted. I don't want somebody sitting here saying, man, get off your high horse. We got you. You're a liar. Or you're said the wrong things, or you're wrong. I want to be right all the time, like so many other people do, right? But I want to be right with facts, not right with passion. And I think that's what really separates me, from a lot of the people that I'm around. I'm not special. I'm just a guy doing guy things. But what makes me an effective leader is the fact that I'm willing to be on ground zero with my team. And I'm willing to be humble, but I'm also willing to step up and say, hey, I got this. Get behind me. I'm going to lead, and we just remain humans. We just remain people. You know what I mean? Like it's community, man. When they come into my gym, right, in the office, it's so crazy how Brandon's culture and my culture is so similar, right? It's so fucking awesome. But that's that like attract like and law of attraction.
Continuity there. That's you, big dog. You're the one right in there.
100%. So it's like when they come to my gym, right? Nobody asked them who they voted for, who they pray to, who they love, who they think they are. Nobody asked them where they work, what they did in their past. When you come in and you cross that threshold, regardless if you're a soccer mom, a grandmom, a young, hungry fighter, somebody lost their dad, you're a fighter. You're fighting something. We're all fighting something in life, right? And, you're going to take that fighter spirit and you're going to take that. And that's what's going to push you to the personal development. See, I'm not in the gym space. I'm in the personal development space. The gym just has to be my vessel of weight to get you to starting to peel the Pandora's box of yourself and seeing what's really going on. And again, I have to understand human psychology. I have to understand communication. I always have to protect minds and my family. So I've got to keep the lights on. If my mission statement is to improve the quality of life with everybody around me through mindset and fitness, then I have to make sure that my sales are closed, that I'm making money so I can utilize that money as a tool to leverage to improve everybody's life through quality of life through mindset and fitness, right? It's a wheel that keeps going. And I think people lose sight of that because they get knocked off their pivot, they get distracted. They have a couple of rough months, they have a couple of rough couple of years, It's a lot of that stuff that hits people and they just, hey, you're struggling with that, do martial arts, do jujitsu. You'll find out that the work that I do don't pay me off until, a year or 2 years from later on. You know what I mean? And that's been the biggest hiccup for me is just help me out. It's just like, dude, I got to put in the reps. I got to show up every day. I got to do the best that I can. And I'm not going to see anything in return until another, 6 months to a year. And now, we're the authority in the marketplace. So I think that's the two things that really separate me from a lot of the coaches, a lot of the people in my space are those factors. And I'm sure there's other guys and gals that do that and probably do a way better job than me. But I know that it's working for us. It's working for us really well.
That Branden right there is your humility speaking right out loud, because you mentioned it, and I love this, and I'm going to swipe it, and I'm going to share it with my community because I think it's so valuable. But the white belt mentality. Okay, great. You might be an expert. You might have 10,000 hours in your one specific vessel, and I love that. But you know what, man? I'm really good on computers. You want to build a website? Cool, I can help you do that. But you ask me to put oil in a car or change out a filter, bro, like, that just ain't me. That's not my specialty. I'm willing to learn. Like, hey, depending on the situation, as a leader, I have to think about where is my time, energy, and effort best invested. But I'm not too good to learn how to do something if it's necessary. As you mentioned, I'm not afraid to jump into the trenches with my team and make sales calls or roll on the mat if that's what it takes. Like, whatever we got to do to get you through that situation that you're in so that you can take the next step. Because as a leader, man, my only job is to facilitate. And what I love about you, Branden, is you were so eloquent in the way that you explained facilitation. Just help them through that situation. Help them feel confident and willing to make that step. And that's what makes you such an amazing leader. That's what makes you and your team such amazing sales professionals, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for an example, we don't have, our area in on the eastern shore of Maryland, we're not surrounded by a lot of metropolitans. So we don't have millions of people that, are coming from different walks of life, traveling through our area. So we got what we got. And I'll be 44 in April. I'm a grandfather. I'm a father of 4. Just had a new 2-year-old son and 3 grown daughters. And thank you. And, I've got some young, hungry fighters that, I have to actually be the sacrificial lamb sometimes because we don't have, there might be a night where all of our studs don't show up. And, I've got to go in here with trained fighters, guys and gals that are getting ready for fights and spar and go with these guys because we don't have that right now. So, and here's the other side of it is I am more skilled than a lot of them because they're newer. But if I start beating up my guys and gals, right? And this isn't about fighting. If you guys are catching my drift, there's a lot of the symbolism here. If I go beating up my guys and gals because they hit me too hard or they got the best of me in a sparring match and they got the best of coach and the champ and all that stuff, then how are they learning and progressing? All they're doing is just showing their toughness and tenacity, and eventually that'll break. So sometimes I've got to be in there and take my lickings and actually some of them, when they're 2-3 weeks out of a fight, I can't even touch them anyway. You know what I mean? But I got to go in here and take my lickings and be that sacrificial lamb for them so that they can get the confidence and they can get the skill set and they can get the know-how of going into and also still push them in a way where, when I spar and go against my guys, I don't just smash. I give them just a little bit more than they got with me. And when they're starting to raise the bar, I raise the bar. And then when they start to beat me, I got to do the things that I know to keep them, sharp and keep them in the game. Well, that's the same thing that we do in real estate. If I'm sitting here and beating up an agent because that agent is getting their ass kicked because they can't close a deal or can't get in front of somebody, and we're just hammering them numbers and this, you got to do that, opposed to, maybe going in the trenches with them and being sacrificial for them and taking my time away and taking my things, show them like, yo, we're right here. Man, that shit goes so far for retention. It goes so far for culture. And, those are the unspoken leadership qualities that people see that you can't put a stamp on, you can't teach, that people talk about you and talk about other people, refer you because they see that. They don't feel it. They don't hear it. They don't read it. They don't watch it online. They feel it. They see it. They know what happened during that real dark moment, that hard moment, that their coach, their guy, the person in charge sat there and said, hey, let's roll our sleeves back. Let's get dirty. Let's get in the trenches. And I might take some lickings with you, but we're going to get through this together, and then we're going to figure it out together. And then it's working, man. I've seen a lot of people that I respect and look up to, man. Those are the kind of leaders that I like and I look up to and I respect. And those are the ones that I'm attracted to and I learn the most from, because they prove that they're the human, they're the human doing this human experience like I keep coming back to.
You know what? And it's the people who are there with you in those dark moments that you remember. And the fact that you can jump in the trenches and you can take your lickings and you can be there for them when they're in that season and they need that the most. That's what says a lot about you as a man, as a husband, father, grandfather, leader. Like, bro, you are an example of someone I absolutely love to follow and see what you put out and the stories that you share. And I know we could probably sit here and do this all day long, man, but I want to be respectful of your time because I know you've got a lot of people to lead. So, if we're in the area and we want to check out your gym or learn more about being on your real estate team, what's the best way for us to come find you?
Yeah, you just go to my Facebook, the Branden Hudson, it's spelled that way. You can go in there and check me out. I do a lot of stuff there. I've got a podcast that we do called Champ Talk with Branden Hudson. That's on YouTube, Spotify, all the platforms. You can check that out and subscribe. You'll get like a little bit more of insight and shit talking and all the good stuff and things like that. I really do more of the, I like to entertain, but I also like to have people, enjoying themselves and wrap it up with something to take away. And Facebook or Instagram's SBY MMA and Fitness. So if you want to check the gym out, and I'm all over. So I'm a DM, email, Facebook away, man. But it's really I just aim to serve, man. So I'll pick up the phone, I'll answer anything. You know what I mean? I'm just one of those guys. I enjoy it. It's fun to me. Life is fun, man. This is my playground. You know what I mean? So.
Amen. And you know what, man? I'll make sure we put all the links for everything in the show notes so people can come find you, check you out. It's truly an honor. I'm so grateful.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something real quick before you end. I really want to give you your flowers, Drewby. You know what I mean? I've watched you and seen your growth for a long time. Well, a little bit now, almost 5 years now.
5 years, man. It seems like forever when we're this age.
It seems like it. Yeah. And you've done a lot of great things and you've helped a lot of people that I know personally that don't say it online, that talk to you, talk about you when you're not around. You've always been straight up with a lot of people, man. And they've always said great things about how, you actually ask questions about what's going on with them. And you're very curious and inquisitive. And I think that goes a long way, especially when you meet so many people through a digital world. You know what I mean? It's not like our buddy down the street and shake hands. So, I wanted to give you your flowers, man. And the fact that you went and did your business and took that leap and you're doing what you're doing, man. It's very inspiring to a guy like me and a lot of other people I know. And just I wanted to thank you for what you're doing for this community and what you're doing for yourself and your family, man. So hats off to you.
Brandon, I will receive those flowers wholeheartedly, brother. I truly appreciate it. I'm trying to hide some tears over here because I don't want to cry on camera. But, man, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait for the day that we get to get in the room and break bread together again, man. Thank you for being a part of the show. Listen, if you guys enjoyed it, if you got something, share this on social media. Send Brandon a message. Go follow his content. He is an amazing human, and he's out here doing great things in the world. So make sure you check him out. If you have a great sales story, I want to bring you on the show too. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your info. Let's bring you on. Let's talk about it because, again, doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality. you can make an amazing life for yourself in sales as long as you call the damn leads. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.